and gentlemen, please welcome back international business correspondent and host of Quest Means Business on CNN, Richard Quest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back international business correspondent and host of
Our next. There we are. Right, the panel before lunch. Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. The issue is now one of cloud computing and the relevance of cloud computing in this part of the world. We have Teresa Carlson from Amazon Web Services. We have Abdul Rahman bin Mutab, Chief Executive from Saudi. We have Al Harith Al Tawayi, CEO of a startup, and Mohammed Ali Al Qaid, who joins us as well from government. Let's start with yourselves, Teresa, because Amazon has spent a considerable amount of money in the region. Tell us how.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here and see this Gateway Conference. But yes, Amazon Web Service has arrived in the Middle East, and we're very excited. We think the opportunity here is really unlimited. And we chose, in fact, Bahrain as our first location because of the leadership from the Crown Prince and what we were able to do in terms of really getting the correct policy
So
what
have you actually created here?
That's a great question. We are creating the first AWS cloud region. And what that means when we come in, we build multiple data centers. We create something called 3 availability zones. Each availability zone has multiple data centers. And that's we look at this as an investment for a long term. We don't go into regions for a short term. We build long-term relationships and partnerships.
How important was it for Bahrain to have this?
First of all, good afternoon, everybody, and it's an honor being here with us. Of course, Bahrain ranked, first among the Arab region since 2010. And the e-government and fully integrating all the government services, having them through 4 channels. The problem is always, how to cut cost, how to add more efficiency. And the most important thing, not only the cost, is the time to market. Mega projects in the country, all the national projects, transformations of judicial systems, of the infrastructure, education, health, requires technology to enable them and to become ready. The good thing about the cloud, it made us, go to market in a week or a couple of weeks of time.
Right, but the cloud is not new. And the issue has to be how the cloud helps this part of the world.
Thank you. So basically, as a company, we have been able to embrace the cloud for the last 3 years and make a big success story. We're a 40-year-old company that have been able to go to the cloud and publish our online travel tools and get a very success story. I think what the region needs here is how to empower the young people. We have a very high unemployment rate, and we have ready tools to make those guys get trained in technology, cloud technologies, and get them into the workforce in no time. I think with the likes of Amazon or Microsoft and Google, we will be able to bring these technologies to the region and build academies and training for the young people.
Now, we've got 2 sides of the company. We've got large and startup.
Startup, yes. Clouds, yes, it's not new, but I think the adoption of it here is fairly new. 3 years ago, if you tell me as a startup I'd be sitting on a panel with people I really look up to, I wouldn't believe it. But it's because we have the cloud. It's because that as a traditional business would only leverage finance. Today we're leveraging technology as well. And that's what allows us to reach a much wider audience and grow quickly.
So that much, to some extent, is accepted doctrine today, that the cloud is the future. But we have to go deeper than that, Teresa. We have to ask, firstly, what was it that Bahrain offered you that made it conducive to you coming here?
Well, I think it's what we offered each other, which is really interesting. And leadership, it starts at the top. And from the very first time I met the Crown Prince, he turned to his ministers and said, why aren't we utilizing cloud computing? This is the new economy. We've got to be driving a new digital economy in Bahrain. And by the way, not just Bahrain, and you heard him earlier talk about the region itself, and that they are really a country that works closely with their other regional partners. So for them, a few things. One is they had a leader that saw the vision to move forward fast. Two, they enabled us through a great partnership with the Economic Development Board. They basically had almost like a concierge service to help us move fast.
What did you require from them?
We needed to get through multiple sort of gates. When we go into a country, we have to work with telecommunications vendors, we have to work with utility providers, landowners, and they help sort of bridge that gap so we could get through all those gates in order to make a decision about the
International
region.
connectivities, for example, legislations, regulations, the cloud first policy that we introduced as the government. You have to prove that you are ready to move to the cloud in order to attract all the investors and all the private sector to get into the cloud. So what we did as a government, everybody should move to the cloud. And what we did, we moved out 480 workloads in few months, and we're going to do double or triple
Did you
that.
have any reservations about bringing them in? Did you have any problems, any challenges? Did you doubt the decision at any stage to do it? Because at the end of the day, with an Amazon comes an entire raft of international regulations, international issues, privacy questions. Oh, you're nodding.
Yes. I think I agree. I think the privacy issues is a critical thing that we need to deal with in terms of cloud. With the GDPR laws in the EU, which has a very strict measures how to deal with private information, I think corporate and government alike need to take a look at not only Amazon but any cloud provider and see how they deal with their own data.
One of the challenges was the capacity, the skill set. So we trained over the past few months almost 400 government employees. We are going to train another 700. That's one. The other thing is, as a government, to move to a cloud, the privacy, as you mentioned, how as a government you're moving your data to an international company. The architecture and security of that data is very important, it's crucial. And what if it goes down? What if anything happens to that data? So we had to properly study it and make sure that it works.
Did you have any problems or reservations, thank you, about, oh come on, let's be honest about this. Did you have any problems about building a highly sensitive data center in a volatile region of the world?
Not at all. I think in this area, we build in different regions around the world all the time. It's what we do. And we do our due diligence just as Bahrain did their due diligence. And we're excited about this region, by the way. We think there's so much opportunity with...
For what? Opportunity for what? Because I keep hearing this phrase from everybody. Opportunity. For what?
Well, opportunity for skills development, the businesses. So this startup is a great example. The only reservation I would say we had in the early days was, can we help build a culture of startups and entrepreneurship? And we've been doing that. One of the first things we did out of the gate was we worked with EDP, Tamkeen, and one of our partners, C5, to build a Scalerator. And in fact, one GCC came out of that Scalerator because there's two basic things that have to happen in the Middle East region. One is they have to invest capital in their own companies and really build that culture of entrepreneurship, because that is how we're going to really create this digital economy that's required for new skills as they move away from oil into other economic development opportunities.
That question. Yes.
So I just want to add to the significance of AWS coming into the region. Before AWS came, we go to governmental agencies, try to sell our solutions. We try to sell our solutions to banks who are regulated by the CBB. And it would be very tough to make a sale because we are cloud-based solutions. But after AWS came in and the e-government started shifting onto the cloud, we started making sales and we were able to convince them.
What about this question of capital that Teresa has just said? Capital being invested either domestically or regionally in local startups.
Okay, so I think the capital side is a bit scared at the moment to invest in the local companies. And
Why?
I think the culture, the experience that we lack here prohibit the VCs, the serious investment to invest seriously. Even from the entrepreneur side, I think we are still in the learning curve.
Did you find it difficult to raise your capital?
It was extremely difficult, but I see the mindset changing. I see it shifting, especially after we had such big success stories like Talabat. They exited for $200 million. We had Souk.com at $650 million. And with these kind of stories...
These are international VCs, not local VCs.
Pardon?
Talabat are bought by international VC.
No, I mean, because we had such big exits, VCs have become interested.
Right, but your
coming
money
into
came
the
from outside.
Yes, and now we are able to raise funds. Now we have to convince local traditional investors who are used to, investing in tangible assets to shift and invest in technologies, invest in IP.
And if I may, I think that is the key. The individuals here in all these countries need to get super comfortable with their own startups and their own companies, because it's been a traditional model to invest in bricks and mortar here. You can see a building, you can touch it. And if you don't understand IP, what does IT bring? But it brings amazing results, right? Profitability. Look at all look at the index, all the tech companies. And there are some amazing technology companies right here in the Middle East. But back to, there's got to be a spirit of really investing in your own, and then that other outside investment is going to come.
What creates that spirit? What creates that? What is the key that unlocks that capital and that unlocks the familiarity with investing in cloud?
I think a few things. One is there is some still training and education that needs to be done with investors here in the Middle East so they get comfortable with it. And they need some success. And I would also say, thirdly, each one of these countries need to set up a fund, even to get going, so it shows international investors that they are investing in their own, which will bring more capital. So if you look at, there's different groups here like Mumtalakat and the Premier Group. You have groups like C5 that have come in and invested. You have PIF in the Middle East or in Saudi. But again, those dollars also have to reflect of local companies and entities that are, again, doing amazing things here. Really, I could name 25 great startups that we're working with that I think have international capability of driving revenue and returns.
I think one of the main important things is the mindset shift. Most of the
From who?
From the young people. All citizens in GCC used to, having a first choice of working with the government or having a job. Now, the stats shows that 70% of our youth in Bahrain would like to have their own business. That kind of mindset change requires a lot of training, a lot of...
So what's government's role? What is government's role to help facilitate that shift?
Building the ecosystem, the training, the kind of training and the education system, universities, that the job is not where they have to head to, the skill sets required for being entrepreneur.
I think the government role should be building the right bylaws, the framework to enable people to embrace the young people. The 70% of people that we have young needs to empower the digital age, digital transformation. So they need to build the right framework and encourage young people to go to the digital age.
I think, first of all, we need to decriminalize failure.
Sorry?
Decriminalize failure. Today, if we fail here, it's kind of a criminal act. We get penalized for it. Bahrain is taking steps towards fixing that.
How do you do? That's a cultural That's not unique to this part of the world. This idea that I heard it put very well earlier in the week, where somebody says, instead of saying you failed, you say you keep trying.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy law, one of the things that's going to fix that, which is not there. Currently, the government are very soon are going to introduce the bankruptcy law.
Yeah.
It's not only government, by the way. It should be also the businessmen, the NGOs, the CSR funds. They need to take care and take note and try to help out in that regard. We have high potential in our young people, and we need to build that digital culture in them.
Well, and also teaching them to failure is part of success, right? You need multiple things. So, but the ability to fail quickly, experimentation, and that's what cloud computing offers for all these companies, is the ability to try and fail and learn from that, but quickly recover.
How important for Amazon, for AWS, when, regrettably, one of your clients, startups, whatever, fails and then tries again? Do you see it as your role to help, to incubate, to advise, to handhold startups?
100%. We love startups. In fact, we have 1 million active customers today. We're in 190 countries. And because of startups, that has really been, they were the key to our success early on. They believed in us. And in fact, 90% of all startups in the US build their business on AWS, and now around the world. And we love that. So we absolutely see it as our role to help them. And that's the reason we love what we've done here in Bahrain with our Cloud 10 Scalerator, with the FinTech, with what we've done with Badr and other groups in the UAE. So it's absolutely our responsibility to help them. And we have programs that give them free training, free technology, and help support how they set up as an entrepreneur.
Finally, what's the one thing you need more of as a startup?
We need a lot of more things to happen, not just...
No, one. Just choose one.
I think today we need to see more investors. Investors, of course, they need to also see more startups. I don't think we have enough deal flow that makes it extremely attractive for investors to come into this region. But I think with AWS coming in, making it easier for entrepreneurs, to adopt the cloud and build new solution and innovation, and with more startups, we will see investors coming in. With more success stories, we will see investors coming in, hopefully.
One thing government can do better.
I will talk about the opportunities for everybody here. The role of government should change, as His Royal Highness mentioned, from the operator to regulator. And to do that, the cloud was a key enabler for us to doing that. One of the examples, for example, the pre-employment health checkup, which was the government doing for the past 30, 40 years, not serving the purpose, and we managed to give it to the private sector in a few months only, because of the integration, because of the power of the technology. So I think the technology is there and ready for the investors to take that role from the government.
One thing.
Okay, so we as a corporate public listed company, we're doing our share to help the youth. So in this year, we have announced a 40 seats program for 6 months to help young people who are fresh grad from the college to get trained on entrepreneurship. We train them on all technologies on the cloud to be able to navigate and get a better understanding of the economy.
Teresa, you get the last word. Slightly rephrasing of the question. What is the one thing you have learned from setting up in Bahrain and doing quite considerable business in the GCC?
I have learned that the Middle East is really fraught with opportunity that's not been tapped into because they've been dependent on the oil industry for so long, and that they're now opening up to new economies, as well as the one thing we did not talk about were the amazing women in the Middle East, and that they are so highly skilled that there is something that people haven't talked about. 60% of the students that graduate from computer science programs are women. That we would die for that in the United States. So the fact that we can tap into an entire group of women that have not been tapped into globally makes them have their own secret weapon right here in the Middle East. And of course, the young economy, the 30 and under, I mean, they could go way beyond any other group in the world because of the socioeconomic.
So you're optimistic? You're optimistic?
Hugely optimistic, hugely.
On that note, thank you.
السيدات والسادة، تفضلوا الآن بالانضمام